I was part of a delegation that went to Africa. It's a program called FutureBoss, which basically got Black entrepreneurs from the UK that were working on interesting subjects and businesses. And as part of that program, we had a time where we had a trip that was sponsored to Uganda to visit and explore and connect with other entrepreneurs in Uganda and visit various businesses, just explore the place, speak to the bank. It felt amazing. And I'd never been to Uganda before then. So even for me, who I've been to Africa plenty of times, it still felt incredible. There were those within the cohort that were of Caribbean descent as well. And I'd never been to Africa in general. And they just felt like just that the experience was like a week, but just the experience of being welcomed, going to all these different places, seeing the businesses and the moves that are happening on the continent, they felt, they started to feel pride as well. I mean, so I think something like that could also be useful for Voyage. If that's something that, I don't know, you're interested in or might be looking to do, I feel like it's something that if you picked a select few kids that and then created a program for them to pick the country in Africa, created a program for them to go in and explore and visit that program, see the nation and just see a different side to the world.
Oh, wow. Certainly. One of the reasons why my home exists in Ghana is because I wanted to create that experience there. So I built my own home, but I've been working on a sort of broader plan of guest houses and things of that nature. So one of the sort of things I've said is perhaps part of my kind of exit from Voyage will be to bring a whole group of kids there. And I kind of, that journey would be sort of almost in the sense that I've now brought a new group of kids now to kind of come back to the UK, and then I can say, I'm here now. Yeah, you guys get on with it back home in the UK. Yeah. But yeah, that is very much part of my plan. And in many respects, a lot of what I've been trying to do in Africa is to try to get that to be a sort of a business that I can work on and actually use that as a base for kind of extending the work I currently do here in the UK.
Tell us what Voyage does. Tell the audience, and then I'll talk about how I think this could be useful to what you're doing.
So Voyage is a youth justice charity. We were formed by the Black Police Association. A lot of our work was very much about trying to stop young people's interaction with police and leading that to arrest. We were one of the first charities, if not the first charities, to run stop and search workshops, to run workshops around empowering young people in various situations around the criminal justice sector. We used to have a very big investment by delivering workshops across London. Voyage was set up to combat young people getting into the criminal justice system. What's happened, that's become quite a crowded space, and a lot of organisations are now doing that. What we've been evolving towards is how we can take that principle of working and using the same approaches, but implying those approaches to different areas such as the environment and the technology sector. Because one of the things about working with young people through criminal justice is you tend to be talking about deficit agendas, and often you're working with quite a risky group of young people in that space. So the opportunities for their growth is quite minimal because you've got to have long wraparound support for those type of young people to keep them connected, to stop them from going astray. And what we've struggled with is seeing the progression of those kids after our program. So we decided to design new courses that can create more, if you like, aligned pathways to industry, so that you started to learn about sustainable cities. Great. And then now you make your choice around A-levels. You then start choosing biology, STEM, subjects of that nature. And then you apply for university and do the same. And the idea is ensure that pipeline is nurtured from a younger age so that you see kids end up in those sectors. And our job is to really just provide the mentoring, the guidance, the workshops and interventions and fun opportunities that help young people in that 4-year journey from 14 to roughly about 18 when they leave Voyage. And what we're really now trying to do is to, because we've seen that work and we're now working on kids who have now graduate, and what we're trying to do is tap those kids to come back to Voyage and act as the sort of peer support for some of those new entry-level kids. And that's plugged into another issue that we found, that many kids in university, black kids in university, are struggling to stay in university because, one, they don't have the finances, they don't have the social circles, and they've lost that connection with their mainstream homes because they've migrated thinking it was a great opportunity. And I've seen roughly about 3 categories emerge of kids who are at uni. You've got some that fly, and we've got an amazing woman, Rachel, who's a graduate. She's actually now just become the chair of the ACS in Cambridge. And she's a really rare case. But most of our students would just about hold it down. And then the other one, like Isaac, for example, he gave up his second year because he just couldn't handle it anymore and chose that he needed to come back and just get into work. And I'm noticing that category of kids who are not able to sustain that kind of period. So we're developing things like alumni program so that those kids can be more supported when they're in university, and we can offer that through work experience, through mentoring, and we've got partners who give people jobs as well in the summer. So those things have been really helpful for us to kind of ensure that. And we're now taking that model and applying that to technology, and that's why we're working on this plan to have a new course called Young Leader for Smart Cities. We'll do exactly the same thing as sustainability in our Safer Cities program, but effectively we want to see more kids enter tech. That's the other area that we're working on now.
Amazing. I love that. That's a practical change. You've basically created a whole pipeline from the age of 14 to 18, making sure that we're getting them young, getting them interested in areas that they otherwise might not have been interested in, and then hopefully leads to them being in STEM areas for careers, which are quite high paying roles. And we need more of people like us in those type of roles. Same with technology, same with AI, which is the second thing you're working on. The more you talk about it, the more I'm like, yeah, you could really create like some sort of delegation, some sort of program, and get it sponsored somehow. I'm sure you can. Because
these days as well.
Plus, let's not forget, you helped raise 14.5 million. You're pretty good at raising money. If there's a way you can raise some funds and like create some sort of delegation program, especially the sustainable cities one. Climate change affects Africa the most. So you going into these African nations, and because I'm pretty sure there are people there that are also doing stuff to try to combat this, and set up meetings with them and bring the kids and show the kids, first of all, the effects, the people on the ground that are working to fix it and that type of thing, just so they have that deeper connection to the work that they're doing. And I feel like even that will motivate them to stay in university even more. Like, be like, actually, I'm doing this for a greater purpose, not just to make money, but I've seen the effects of this because I was in Ghana or I was here. I saw the beach. Have you seen the beaches in Ghana, by the way?
Yeah.
I saw something on social media recently with where all the garments that
King Lega.
I don't know the name of it, but I know it was a beach and the entire thing was just filled with clothes, rubbish clothes. They showed the beach beforehand, which was just clean, and then afterwards just piles, like mountains of clothes.
Yes.
And this is part of climate change. This is the type of things that if they saw that with their own eyes, they'll be like, okay, no, I'm not just doing this to make money. I can actually make a change in the world, and these are my people. Because I don't know, I feel like no matter where I go in Africa, I feel like there's that connection that these are my people. So they might get the same connections.
A lot of people do want to give back or go back, but they just don't know how. So to have someone to facilitate that would be really great. But I was just going to take it a bit back, and I was thinking, being a first generation grad myself in my family, and even being in the field of psychology where it's predominantly white females, seeing people of the global majority succeed and have role models as you're doing and facilitating really helps people. Because when I see another South Asian psychologist, or my colleague who's Ghanaian, we had a lecture and it was a black psychologist, male psychologist, and he was in awe. 30 plus years, he's never seen another black psychologist until that lecture, and how impactful that still is. And people still say to me, oh, I'm being supervised for the first time by somebody of the global majority. And I think it's so important for people to see people like us representing.
Wow, it was so true. When we were reading and learning an awful lot about the environmental sector, what was fascinating was to find that all of the people who had graduated and been through it, none of them, and all the people we spoke to had even a lecture from a black person.
Wow.
And then we got in touch with another young Nigerian guy who's doing a master's, and we found him talking about that particular point, and we amplified his social media as a result. And it's still like that to this very day. There's hardly anyone in those spaces there that look like us. It's one of the things that I always say to our young people is that when you want to rise in this world, like the higher you climb, the colder it gets. Like the higher it gets.
I'm stealing that.
Framing that in that kind of way. You know, and it is the absolute truth. And you can actually put that in literal as well, because Andrew, one of my trustees, he works in finance, is one of these big finance people. And he goes that, like, he leaves his house, he's from a black family, he leaves the neighborhood, says how, and in the moment he gets into the city of London, any connection with his identity is left at that reception after he says, yo, how's it going, bruv? And climbs the lift from the security up to the next floor. That's it. Yeah. He's Andrew. He's kind of, and he just tells me that is the mindset that you've got to adopt, and it's something that we need to talk to a lot of kids about, because in many respects, a lot of people don't want to challenge that a lot of the time. They just think, oh no, I'd rather stay here. And I think that is so important, that when you climb that lift, there are people that look like you in every stage, so that you kind of encouraged all the way by virtue of another person being there, living that story as well.